Welcome to another live stream. This is the Dan Norton Show. I just had a sound problem, which I didn't realize I was muted in Zoom, but I think I fixed the problem. I'm just waiting. Yeah, there was just a delay of about 15 seconds. I had to wait to. Okay, so we're in business now. I forgot to unmute myself in Zoom when I started talking, so I can start over. So, welcome to the Dan Norton Show. This is Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. I started streaming today at an unusual time, 4:45 p.m. Pacific. Usually I stream around 1 p.m. Pacific, but I had an appointment earlier, so things were a little different today. But I'm hopeful that I'll still get some live viewers. I see there are a few people here, so welcome to you. I've put in the chat there a invitation to put any questions or comments you have, or simply just say hi in the chat, because a lot of the content on my show is driven by the topics that you all want to talk about. So if you raise topics in the chat, then I will discuss those. Other than that, I usually don't have much um, of an agenda of my own. Sometimes I will update what I've been reading lately, but I will give priority to topics that you all raise in the chat. So feel free to get us started with something there. Just a little channel updates. I uploaded 2 videos since my last live stream. They were from my live stream on Saturday, the 17th, which unfortunately was visited by some trolls. So I had to edit the live stream and re-upload those videos after I edited out the interruptions by the trolls. So if you go to the videos tab as opposed to the live tab on my channel, you'll be able to find the last 2 live streams I did. So usually I only do 1 live stream on a given day, but I happened to do 2 live streams on Saturday. Um, so if you want more details on the what happened exactly and why I had to do 2 streams, you can go listen to those. But basically, someone tried to bomb the stream, and so I decided to just stop the stream and then start a fresh stream, um, so that people would be able to avoid seeing his unwelcome intrusion. So, anyways, there's 2 streams on my in the videos section of my tab, but normally my live streams they will end up in the live section of my YouTube channel. Also, I another updates, I've got some more safeguards in place. I think I've thought of some ways to prevent trolls from being able to get through. So I think going forward, they should be less of a problem, hopefully not a problem at all. But I did some testing of various features on my end and thought about different strategies I could use. So I think that things should go more smoothly in the future. And there are some things I'm going to be testing out. So it might take me a few shows to get smooth at it, but I do think things should go smoother from this point forward. See, we already got a chat from Dr. Alpha. Asked me, what do I think about veganism? Thanks, Dr. Alpha, for participating. I think you're a new participant here. What do I think about veganism? Well, I don't think much about veganism, so any thoughts I give you are going to be sort of off the cuff and not something that I've thought much about, but maybe I can give you a few thoughts on veganism and just take a sip of water here. I think water counts as being vegan, right? No animal products in that. Um, so for one thing, I do not, I think only human beings have rights. I don't think animals or other non-human beings have rights. So I don't think there is a argue, or at least I'm not aware of an argument. I don't think there can be an argument that appeals to the so-called rights of animals, like animal rights. I don't think that's a thing. And I can get more into that if you want, but I don't think animals have rights. So I don't think it's a violation of animals' rights to kill them and eat them because I don't think they have any rights to be violated. Only human beings have rights. Now, there might still be good reasons to be vegan. You might think that there are health reasons. Maybe you think it's just a healthier diet to not consume meats. I think that's a scientific question. And I guess people have different opinions about that. But um, that's, I can see potentially there's an argument based on health for being vegan, but I don't think there's an argument based on rights. Um, I don't know what other sorts of arguments people might want to give. Just occurred to me utilitarians who want to promote the greatest happiness of the greatest number, or they want to maximize pleasure, or utils, they might put it in different ways. Maybe there are utilitarian based arguments for being a vegan, but I'm not a utilitarian. So I'm an egoist. I think it's best to do whatever makes your own life the best and the happiest, not what maximizes the happiness of the universe as a whole, um, if there is such a thing. So, those are a few initial thoughts on veganism, and I guess there are different paths this discussion could go down. Um, I don't know if you want to indicate, Dr. Alpha, any more, if you want to do a follow-up question and maybe steer it in a certain direction. But those are just some initial thoughts on veganism. Okay, Dr. Alpha just put another comment in. Some do environmental arguments, he says, but most arguments I see from vegans are arguments to give animals rights. Okay. So, yeah, as I mentioned, if the arguments are based on animal rights, I guess what I would do is have a discussion about what rights are at that point. And I would take the position that only human beings have rights. So I think human beings, so why do only human beings have rights? Well, I think the there's two ways of dealing with people. There's reason and there's force. So you can deal with someone by reason or you can deal with someone by force. If I want something from you, I can try to persuade you. Like if I want your car, I think you've got a nice car. Well, I can make you an offer. I can try to persuade you to give me your car by making you an offer of money. I can say, if I give you $10,000, will you give me your car? And what I'm doing there is I'm appealing to your reason. I'm making a proposal which you can consider in your mind and you can decide. You can reason through it. How much is this car worth to me? Is it worth more than $10,000? Is it worth less than $10,000? You can think about it and you can decide to accept or to reject my offer. Uh, Now, alternatively, you could deal someone by force. Instead of appealing to their mind, you could just beat them up and take their keys and drive off with their car. So That's an alternative way of dealing with people, which I think is bad. It's a animalistic way, you might call it. It's reducing yourself to the level of a brute who doesn't use reason or persuasion to navigate the world, but instead just uses brute physical force. And I think that makes for a bad sort of society. I think it's better to deal with people by reason, by appealing to their minds, not just uh, whack them over the heads to get what you want. Now, animals, they don't have this choice. It's not open to an animal to choose, should I use reason or should I use force? And and you don't have a choice dealing with animals. So an animal doesn't face that choice. And uh, I think humans should recognize that animals can't reason. They don't have a rational faculty like humans do. So if a bear is near you, maybe running towards you, you can't reason with the bear. You can't persuade the bear using reason to not attack you. You can't have a discussion with it. You can only relate to it with force. Um, so when you are dealing with people by reason, you are respecting their rights. I think that's essentially what rights are. They are protections from physical force. So you're free to do what you want as long as you are not using physical force against other people. And rights are a recognition of that principle. So you have a right to do whatever you like as long as you're not forcing somebody else. Um, since this alternative of reason versus force doesn't really exist when it comes to animals, I think animals are outside the sphere of rights. The issue of rights doesn't even apply to them. So that's that's a little bit on why I think animals don't have rights. I guess there's more I could say, but and maybe I will say more later. But I see we got some more chats coming in here. So let me see what other chats we've got. Diego is here. I still haven't emailed you yet. I've been pretty busy, but as I mentioned in the last show, I do intend to email you. Um, entirely. Robert Nasir, welcome. I think this is the first time I've seen you in a live stream. I know I've seen you maybe in premieres where I've published pre-recorded videos and then there's a live chat, but that's a bit different than a live stream. So welcome, Robert. He says, in my experience, happiness, per Ayn Rand, is the state which follows from the achievement of one's values. But some people, including some objectivists, don't want to be happy. They think they do, but they refuse to focus on values versus evils, threats, thinking that happiness implies a failure to recognize the evils in the world. Okay, so that was from Robert. Thanks for contributing that. I'm trying to think back if that was responding to something in particular. I guess I mentioned happiness uh, briefly, maybe as the point of life when I was contrasting egoism with utilitarianism, whereas utilitarianism is trying to maximize the pleasure or happiness in the universe at large. Egoism, which I hold, following Ayn Rand, is the view that you should pursue whatever is best for your own individual happiness. So maybe that was something like that prompted Robert's comment about happiness. I'm not sure. He can let us know if he wants. Okay. Um, Patriot Government TV says, "Sup, Dan? How you doing? Doing all right. Welcome. I think you might be a new person. By the way, if you give the stream a like, I'd appreciate it. If you like the stream, that'll help promote it in the algorithm. And also, I definitely appreciate new subscribers. I'm trying to grow the channel, and getting new subscribers is definitely part of that. Last stream was a great day for getting new subscribers. I got several new ones during the last stream. So I'd love to continue that trend. Um, I was saying how I'm right now I'm at 800 something, 856 subscribers was the last I checked. And a big milestone for me will be getting up to 1,000 subscribers, not just because it's 4 digits, but because at that point I can apply to YouTube to have my channel monetized, which will be great because I want to monetize this channel and have it become self-sustaining. And once I get up to 1,000, then that starts to become a reality. Then I can also take super chats. So that'll be great. And you can know exactly what number subscriber you are if you subscribe in the elite elusive first 1,000, because after 1,000, YouTube doesn't show exactly how many subscribers someone has. It'll just say like 1.01K subscribers. It only gives you 3 digits. It doesn't give you the ones digit. So if you want to know exactly what number subscriber you are, if you want to be able to say, I was Dan's 864th subscriber. Well, if you want to know your number, you got to do it before I hit 1,000. Um, so maybe that'll incentivize some people to subscribe sooner rather than later. All right. But let me read through some more of these super chats. Looks like okay, so I was up to 4:59 p.m. with Pacific. Um, these are Pacific timestamps. You might see it different if you have timestamps toggled on. But right now for me, I'm looking at 4:59 p.m. from Robert Nasir. He says, contrary-wise, the protagonist of Atlas Shrugged observes, quote, "We never had to take any of it seriously," unquote. Any thoughts? He asks. I like that quote. That's maybe I won't say who it is or what the context of it is in the novel so as not to give away anything, but it's very brief way of asserting a benevolent universe premise. Maybe that's a way to put it. So that's so this phrase benevolent universe premise is an idea in Ayn Rand's philosophy, which is the idea that the universe is hospital hospitable to values or achievements. It's open to achieving success and happiness in life. You are not doomed to failure and misery and suffering. That would be a malevolent universe premise. But on Ayn Rand's view, you're not necessarily doomed. You can't. Success and happiness are possible. Um, that doesn't mean you're never going to face adversity, failure, disappointment, sadness, pain. But those don't constitute the essence of life. They don't have to constitute the essence of life, at least if you live in a certain way, if you live in a rational sort of way and according to a rational moral code, which is one of the big contributions Ayn Rand offers humanity, I would contend. I think she offers a revolutionary moral code which enables one to helps one achieve success and happiness in their life on earth. So if you have the right set of ideas, if you have the right philosophy, and if certain things outside of your control are sufficiently good, like if you're not born in a totalitarian dictatorship, or you're not born with some massively debilitating disease that impairs your ability to live um, or if you get cancer, right? There are certain things that might not be in your control. Maybe you just genetically you're susceptible to cancer, or you're born into totalitarian dictatorship. And these can be tragic cases, which hopefully you can there's a solution to. So you're not guaranteed success just because you exist. Um, so that's not what the benevolent universe premise means. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed. But it just means, at least if you don't have some of these conditions outside your control, like you're born with cancer or in a totalitarian dictatorship, then success is possible to you. Happiness is possible to you. Um, and yes, there might be some bad parts in life, some bad people, but they don't have to dominate your life. That it doesn't have to be the essence of life. And I think that quote, we didn't have to take any of it seriously, did we? I think is a nice way of capturing the unimportance of evil or bad things in the world. This happens at a point where the person who says this is in she's been facing a lot of adversity, but she then finds herself in a much more pleasant place, which you might call Atlantis. Um, okay, let me see what else is in here in the chat. Uh, got some more from Patriots Government TV, who says that's a disgusting thing to say and think. Would dinosaurs have had rights? I'm not sure what you're saying is disgusting, a disgusting thing to say and think. Are you talking about when I was talking about animals not having rights? Because when I read these chats here, I don't always read them or see them at the time they come in. So I don't know what the context of this is. But since your next chat is about dinosaurs having rights, my guess is that maybe you're referring to what I was saying about animals not having rights. You can indicate that in the chat if you want. And then you say Bobby Snake Man, apparently. Okay, I have no idea what that is referring to. Uh, no, I'm not just new here. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to read all of these out loud. I might just read them silently, some of them. Okay. I'm not sure what this is referring to. Um, all right. So we got some new people in the chats. Looks like for the most part, at least, it's been pretty clean, which is good. I like to keep the chat civil. Um, so I'd appreciate it if you also keep things civil. And I always have the power to delete and block people. So, and I've had to exercise that uh, in the past, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. All right, so I see a new person, um, Manny Coon. Let me read this silently first to see if I want to read it out loud. Okay, it looks like if you're talking to me there, it looks like there's in your first sentence, there's a assumption which I see no basis for. Um, seems pretty arbitrary to me. So I don't think I'm going to read that one or reply to that. Um, okay. What else is in here? All right, Patriot Government TV. You might be getting blocked. Um, Same with you, Manny Coon. I don't know if I'm always going to read out people's screen names. I might just block people silently. Uh, I don't have like a this policy exactly how I do things is it's a work in progress. So I might experiment with different variations. But if you come in here and you're just saying things that are baseless, arbitrary, or disrespectful, uncivil, you might not last very long because I don't really want to waste time on people who are writing things like that. I think I don't think it's a good use of the time. I think it's better to spend time on more productive comments that have some kind of basis in reality and that are not being disrespectful. So if you want to stick around, bear that in mind. Um, I also might come back and block people later or delete things like after the show because it might take too long to do during the show. It might just be too much of a distraction. But some of these stream management tasks might be done after the show. I think in the last stream, I was basically doing stream management for the last hour, just catching up on the chat and blocking some people after a couple of trolls came on and tried to bomb the stream. Um, so um, I don't know if I'm going to do that again, where I do this. I was doing a lot of stream management. It was a very unusual stream. I had never done that much stream management during a stream itself. Maybe I'll do more of that after the stream. I'm not sure yet, but in any case, I might clean up the chat later as opposed to now. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay. What else do we have in here? I also like to copy comments sometimes before I delete someone, so I have a record of what was said. So I might do that. Because if I just block someone right now, then after the stream, I don't think I'll be able to see their comments anymore. So I might want to copy them and paste them somewhere else before the stream ends. Uh, okay, yeah. So Patriot Government TV, I'm just going to ignore you right now because I don't think you're chatting in a respectful way. I'm just reading through some of that person's comments. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Patriot Government TV is definitely getting blocked. And I think it's bad enough that I'm just going to block them now after I do a copy and paste on the chat. So I have a record of this. And then after I do that, I'm going to block them. Pretty lame. Pretty lame. I'm going to open a new file. Let's make this easy to keep track of. Okay, I'm going to title this May. I'm just making a Google Doc here. I like Google Docs. Use it a lot. May 21st live stream. Yeah, see, we got 15 people here. That's great. That's I think pretty close to the max I've ever had here. Although some may be trolls, like the one I'm about to block. So Diego says, I'll read this one from Diego. He says, "Yeah, I blocked Patriot a while ago. Immature child, not worth the calories to burn to respond to." Okay. All right. He's gone. Patriot Government TV has been blocked. All right. Don't have to waste any more time on that. I'm curious, does it now show up as like is there now a auto-generated message in place of his old messages? For me, there is. It says message deleted by Dan Norton, view deleted message. And then that view deleted message on my end is a link. So I can actually see his chats that I just deleted. I don't know if you can still see his chats, um, but I can see them at least for this duration of the stream. But after the stream ends, I don't think I'll be able to see them anymore. But I copy them into a different document. Um, all right, 17 concurrent viewers, it says. I think that is a record. Last time it got up to 16, which was a record, but now it says 17. So this is great. So thanks everyone for coming by. Definitely appreciate your presence. I see we're up to 7 likes, which is great. So if you want to help push this out in the algorithm, if you want to give it a like, that would help with that. And I definitely appreciate any new subscribers. All right, so let me go back to where I was in the chat. Now that I've cleaned up the chat, it'll be easier to go through. Um, oh, oh yeah, I already read this other one from this person who I guess I won't reread that, but maybe I'll be deleting that person or blocking that person also later. But I don't think that one is as urgent because he's only put in a couple of chats. It's less of a distraction. Okay. Oh, Jason Adams, welcome. You say, let's see. Just want to make sure I didn't. Yeah, I don't think I skipped any. Except Diego, I think I want to email you before I engage with yours, if I do engage later. Um, you can chat here for now, but I think I will. I'm going to postpone deciding about engaging until I email you. Um, okay. Jason says, when the spaceship lands in the sunken Statue of Liberty parallel universe, I guess I'll bow my head to apes. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. Talking about some dystopian future, maybe. Um, Manny Coon says, sorry about the grammar. I'll do better next time. I didn't have an issue with your grammar. I thought my issue was more with the substance of your comments. Um, but I'm not going to go back right now to look at those. I want to see what else is in the chat here. Oh, I see somebody entered the waiting room on Zoom. It looks like somebody wants to call in. Um, by the name of Duck. That's the name they have on in the waiting room on Duck. I don't know if that's a legitimate person or if that's a troll. Based on what happened last time, it may very well be a troll. The Maybe the person is being silly with that name. Maybe that's a sign it's a troll. I'm not sure. But anyways, I want to spend some more time on the chat before I decide whether to take that call. Um, and I have some measures in place to screen out trolls. So it might be interesting and fun to try my new techniques, see if they're effective. Okay, but I'm going back to the chat right now. Robert Nasir at 5:15 p.m. Pacific asks, "Have you listened to Alex Epstein's talk, How to Leverage Objectivism to Become a Leader in Your Field?" I don't know. I might have listened to that, but I'm not sure. It vaguely rings a bell for me at least. So I might have listened to that a year or two ago. I just don't remember exactly what that talk is. Um, but it sounds vaguely familiar. So my guess would be that I've heard it, but I don't remember it well, so I can comment on it right now. By the way, I see some little hearts floating up at sometimes. I've seen some the little party emoji that with the it looks like confetti in a cone, like something popped out of a champagne bottle or something. I don't know. But anyways, that's nice to see. So thanks for those. So I guess that's another way to engage besides putting likes on it and sharing it and so forth. Okay, and then Robert continues, and if so, that is, if I have listened to Alex's talk, any thoughts on how to better apply objectivist ideas to increase one's own passion? And then he uses French lust for life. I don't know how to speak French or pronounce French, so joie du vivre, joy of living, lust for life. I guess maybe that's how Robert translates that. So I would just have to take that on its own since I don't recall Alex's talk. Um, do I have any thoughts about how to better apply objectivist ideas to increase one's own passion and lust for life? Hmm, how to better apply it. I'm not sure off the top of my head about like what thoughts on I might have on how to better apply. I mean, there's applying it and then how to apply it better. Maybe it depends on the if I knew someone's particular case, like if I would maybe I would have advice for someone on how they could do better, but I guess better is implying an idea of where someone stands at a given time. So, like if I saw, um, if I got to know you, Robert Nasir, maybe I would observe something you said or did, and I might think, oh, well, if Robert did this thing or said this a little bit differently, maybe that would be a better way to apply objectivist ideas. Or Jason Adams, another person in the chat, if I saw Jason saying or do something, maybe I would think, oh, if he did this thing a little differently, maybe that would be a better way to apply it. But I don't know, like I'm feeling like maybe I need a baseline, like a concrete case to work with, and then given that, maybe I would have some advice on how to better apply objectivist ideas. So, I mean, the basic virtue in objectivism is rationality, but of course, that's very broad. Like, what exactly does it mean to be rational in a million different cases? What does it mean to be rational for me in running this stream? Does it mean blocking people who are trolls? Does it mean allowing them to stay in the chat because maybe that'll get more engagement on YouTube and help me in the algorithm? And maybe I have to weigh those two things. Is any publicity good publicity, even if it's um, people who are saying bad things. So these are things which I have to consider, and that's part of using reason, being rational. Maybe I could be doing things better or differently to make my own life go better, increase my own passion and lust for life. I certainly enjoy doing this YouTube channel. I would say that would count as one of my passions. Um, so I guess it's a non-traditional sort of route to take. Most people who go to graduate school for philosophy, at least, they're aiming at being a professor in a university. And that's what I was aiming to do when I entered graduate school. But partway through graduate school, I decided that I would actually enjoy a different sort of life more, one that allows me to engage with a broader public. And I thought YouTube might be a way to do that. Which is not to say they're necessarily mutually exclusive. Like there could be some philosophy professors who also have YouTube channels and have a kind of public presence. So it's not that you have to do either academia or you're a public intellectual. You could do some of both. Um, but you know, the way there's still issues on like how much time do you want to spend on both? Like if you really love teaching, then you would definitely want to have university teaching as part of your work life if you're a professor. But maybe you're not so passionate about teaching, or maybe you're happy to teach just the general public and like go on YouTube or like I'm doing, and you don't necessarily want to teach just college age students. So depending on exactly what your profile is, a given profession is going to suit you well or not. And like for me, I thought if I were to go in the academia, I would have to do a lot of teaching and maybe publishing. There's this phrase "publish or perish," which I think describes how a lot of people um, or describes the life many people have in academia. If you don't publish journal articles, then you will likely perish, at least in certain kinds of jobs. Like if you're on a tenure track job, there are some schools which don't require you to publish, but I think and they just have teaching requirements, and you have to help administer the department. But I think they're in the minority. I think in most institutions, you're expected to do some amount of publishing. But anyways, I wasn't really interested in doing much uh, academic philosophy writing or teaching in university classrooms. I mean, I might get some amount of satisfaction from those, but I thought I would enjoy more doing the kind of thing I'm doing now, where I'm on YouTube and I can engage with the broader public, and I don't have these obligations to teach classes and grade papers. Oh man, that was the worst thing when I was a graduate student. I hated grading papers. I mean, some were a pleasure to grade, but because they were very well written, but that's very rare. I would say the large majority of papers, I think, were just very badly written, just from a basic writing mechanics and grammar sort of standpoint, not even considering the substance, the philosophical issues being discussed. Just trying to read this paper and make sense of it, it was just painful for so many papers. So I am very glad that I'm not spending hours and hours and hours of my life uh, grading papers. Um, so just considering everything that the academic sort of career involves versus the YouTube life, I thought my passion in life was more in line with what I'm doing now. So that's the route I took. I don't know if that'll ever change. Maybe someday I'll feel drawn back to academia, but for right now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Now, there are other issues like monetary issues. Like as I said, I'm not even making money from this. I'm funding this project by doing other things. It's not a financially self-sustaining venture yet, but I hope it'll get there. That's the goal at least. And then hopefully one day I can just do this full time. And also there's more flexibility in terms of where you live. If you're on YouTube, like sometimes with academia, you often just have to go where the jobs are, wherever that is. So if you might like to live in California, or you might like to live in Florida or New York, but there's no jobs available that you could get. It's a very tough market to get in. So some people that just go wherever the jobs are. You could be in the middle of Montana or something. And I know someone who was in grad school the same time I was. He was a few years ahead of me, and he ended up taking a job in India. And he applied to a bunch of jobs. I don't know how many jobs. I think sometimes they'll apply for dozens and dozens of jobs and get no offers. And if you get one offer, um, I think a lot of people will take it because the academic job market is just so tough to find a tenure track job in, at least. It's easier to find like part-time lecturing positions, like in a local community college. Adjuncting is what it's called, where it's not a tenure track position where you could eventually get tenure after a few years, provided that you do a certain amount of publishing and teaching and that it all goes sufficiently well. There are also what's called just adjunct jobs where you're just hired on to teach one class or a few classes each semester. And then maybe they'll have space for you the next semester. Maybe not. It's more a ad hoc, case by case kind of basis. It also doesn't pay uh, as much. I think um, much less than tenure track jobs do. So adjuncting, I don't think is a very lucrative or secure sort of uh, um, career to have in academia. And I think many people they do it for a few years and then they just get burned out and they leave the field. So so I could probably get some adjuncting jobs in whatever place I like. If I want to live in California, which I like, I could probably find adjuncting jobs, but they're not as they're not going to be very lucrative. They're not going to be very stable. Um, So they have the benefit of geographically, you have more choice about where you want to live, but then there's a cost to that. And to get those tenure track jobs, that's very, very difficult. And I think you have much less choice about where you go, unless you're like a superstar um, philosopher maybe you came out of Harvard or something. You've you've already got publications. Then you might have a little bit more choice, but that's a very rare kind of case. All right, so that was all riffing off of or triggered by this comment that Robert asked. I was just thinking about what are my own passions in life, and I thought maybe I would just talk about my own passion. And I could have just mindlessly gone down the professor route, but I don't think I would have been as happy doing that. So I think to really be passionate about life, you really have to think, even if this might be an untraditional path, maybe you would enjoy it more. So maybe that's a little piece of advice on how to better apply um, objectivist ideas. I'm not sure. But anyways, those are some thoughts I had that were prompted by Robert's comment for whatever it's worth. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I should. Oh, Darwin is back. I think I'm about. How far am I behind in the chat? So I just read. So that one from Robert was from 5:15 and it's now 5:36. So I'm about 20 minutes behind in the chat. Let me see. Oh, Duck is still in the waiting room on Zoom. All right. I don't know if I'm going to get to that soon, whatever soon means, but I'm not in a rush to get to it. So right now, I'm just going to keep engaging with the chat. And it's good that there is stuff to engage with. So thank you all for participating in the chat. I appreciate that because I it gives me material to comment on. Okay. Jason Adams says, I'm multitasking and passing through. Sam asks, who is Ayn Rand? She was a novelist and a philosopher. Her most famous books are The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. And she also wrote nonfiction. She developed a philosophy called Objectivism, which stands for reason, egoism, and capitalism. Those are some of the core ideas of it. So I think that's all I will say right now about who is Ayn Rand. There's um, probably because most people there have at least a little knowledge about who is. I mean, there's a ton you can learn about. If you want to learn more, you can check out the Ayn Rand Institute's website, aynrand.org. There's a lot you can learn about from there. I think that's a good source. I think there's a lot of sources that are not good. I mean, the best thing to do is read her own writings, and you can find a lot of her writings for free online. Um, all right, then we have double cheese extra cheddar, who asks, "What was your PhD thesis?" It was titled "A Critique of the Scientific Case for Physicalism." And I've talked about this in previous videos. So if you look on my channel, there's a there's a video called "Is the Mind or Consciousness Physical?" I think that's the title, something like that. If you look for that on my channel, I actually give a presentation of some of the key ideas from my thesis. So I will just refer you to that for right now. Okay. And uh, Robert says, no, there's no indication here. It says that, oh, okay, good. I think that you're referring to the person who I blocked. So I guess if you, maybe if you join the stream after I block the person, it doesn't show up anything. But maybe if you were on the stream while he was here, there are some placeholder auto-generated messages from YouTube that says like this message has been deleted, this message has been deleted, this message has been deleted for every time he wrote a message. So I don't know if you were here before I blocked him, Robert, but that would be interesting to know. I think for me, there are still these placeholder messages that say message deleted by Dan Norton. Um, but maybe that's just for me. Um, but thanks for that feedback, Robert. Um, okay. Zach M says, who is John Galt? Read Atlas Shrugged if you don't know. All right. And then, oh, looks like we got another troll here. Yeah, so I'll have to block this person. Yeah, just reading more of the trolls' comments before I delete them. All right. I wonder if he's the person who called in on Zoom. Still there in the waiting room. All right, just doing some copying of these messages so I don't lose them. Should be back with you in a under a minute, I think. Okay. Antikythera, the troll, the second troll of the day has been blocked, or the second rude person at least. Um, all right, he's gone. Oh, Darwin, hello. I see Darwin has joined. All right, this makes it a lot easier to get through the chat. I have less clutter after I've deleted this rude person's messages. Okay, so now I'm up to 5:29 p.m. Pacific. Zach M asks, as opposed to having to be born or incubated into the oligarchy. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's a reply, or maybe that was a question for the rude person that I just blocked. Because yeah, because I don't see I don't remember anything I said that would relate to. Ideal Game, welcome. You say hi, Dan. You're new, I think. Um, Ideal Game asks, what do you think about Rand's physiology of art? Could you recommend a contemporary noble that's oh, I think you meant to type novel. Yeah, because then you continue. Could you recommend a contemporary novel or show that aligns with that? That being Rand's physiology of art. So, what do you mean exactly by Rand's physiology of art? Do you mean her philosophy of art? She does have a book called The Romantic Manifesto, which mostly deals with literature. I think the subtitle is A Philosophy of Literature, I believe. Uh, but I think she deals with other art forms as well, like music. Um, and I think it's in connection with music that she might actually say something, at least a little bit, about physiology. But I think if my memory serves, she regards music as a kind of frontier territory within the arts. It's not as well understood as the other arts. And I think she proposes some kind of theory about how music uh, evokes the sort of response it does that might involve reference to physiology. But it's been a long time since I've read that. That's probably that's the area of Rand's philosophy which I've studied the least. Her art, her philosophy of art. Maybe you just meant to write philosophy of art, but anyways, I guess you could indicate that in the chat if that's what you meant. But um, so I would recommend reading the Romantic Manifesto if you haven't already, if you want to know her ideas on art. Um, but you ask about a contemporary novel. or show that aligns with that. So maybe that's just you're asking about what objectivist art is there today? Because her philosophy was called objectivism. So is there any artwork that applies objectivism? Um, I don't know if any art can be called objectivist art other than Rand's own art. Um, I guess there's always, um, I mean, no one can speak for Rand's um, on, and I think this might like, if I think something like Michelangelo's David, that sculpture is that objectivist art? Is that romantic art? Is that good art? Right? There are different ways you could look at it and consider each of those. I think many people who are objectivists, followers of Ayn Rand's philosophy, they do really like Michelangelo's David. They would definitely say it's good, even great art. I don't know if they would say it's romantic art. Ayn Rand called her school of art romantic realism. Uh, and I think that was partly to contrast with the Romanticist school of art in the 19th century, um, which I don't know if it's ever been called this, but maybe uh, maybe it could be called romantic irrealism or non-realism because in some way it's not realistic. Maybe there's something mystical about it, um, or somehow it's not fully this worldly and secular, whereas Ayn Rand had a very secular, this worldly philosophy. Um, so uh, if I'm not mistaken, that she was contrasting her form of romanticism with the 19th century form of romanticism. But he's would it be right to say that David is a romantic piece of artwork? I'm not even sure about that. Um, I'm not very well versed, as I mentioned, in the artistic aspect of Ayn Rand's philosophy. I've spent a lot more time thinking about and discussing her ethical system and her political system. So the main focus of my channel has been ethics and politics, and sometimes I get into other issues like epistemology and metaphysics. It's only quite rarely that I've gotten into aesthetics. Um, so I'm relatively um, not well versed on that aspect of her philosophy. Um, but I don't know if anyone can qualify as romantic realist prior to Ayn Rand's. I'm not sure about that. Um, I think maybe the philosophical outlook you would need to have maybe just wasn't in place before her to have what at least she would consider to be romantic realist art. Um, I just don't know. This isn't something I haven't thought about that. It's an interesting question though. But there are certain artworks that many objectivists like though, like Casablanca is a movie from the 40s, I believe. Humphrey Bogart is in it. Um, I won't claim that that's objectivist art or romantic realist art, but it is an example of a movie that many objectivists like. Um, I guess because it reflects some of the values of the objectivist philosophy. Um, I don't think I can give you an analysis of it right now and why it is that many objectivists like that movie. Chocolat. It was another one that I think many objectivists like, a much more recent one. I think maybe it came out in the 2000s. There are certain shows like Mr. Sunshine. It's apparently that's a Korean drama, which Yaron Brook has talked about. Yaron Brook is another objectivist podcaster. I haven't seen that show myself, so I don't have an opinion on it. But Yaron Brook has said that I think that's his favorite show, and I know many other objectivists like that. I actually don't watch much TV or movies in general myself, so I'm maybe not the best one to ask that question to, but there are a few things I will say. Um, but I guess if you just read Rand's book, The Romantic Manifesto, you'll get some idea, at least, of other art that she liked very much and her reasons for liking it, at least to a certain extent. Like Victor Hugo, I think she saw as the greatest novelists or one of the best novelists prior to her. Hugo and Dostoevsky, I think, were the her favorite authors, at least when it comes to like serious philosophical fiction. There are other works like Calumet K, which I think she even called her favorite novel, which I don't think is considered like part of world literature. Um, so it's for different reasons than it's that she likes Hugo and Dostoevsky than the reason she likes Calumet K. I don't recall the author of Calumet K, but um, anyways, if you read Rand's book, The Romantic Manifesto, you can get um, more ideas of other art besides Rand's that she liked. Okay, so now I'm up to Darwin at 534. Let me see how much is coming in the chat. Okay, it's got a few more. Okay. Um, so Darwin is, oh yeah, he's replying to the troll. Darwin says, "You're a troll, but I agree that neoliberalism has destroyed the nuclear family." Okay, maybe that could be a big discussion, but let me just go on for now. Maybe I can come back to that later, spend some more time on it. And then Darwin says, deregulation and the over commodification of basic needs, such as healthcare and public housing, has contributed to 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. And then Darwin says to the troll, who's now gone, I debated him last stream about Social Security. Right. Yeah, I had a call with Darwin, which is live stream number 23A. Because that day I had two live streams. There's 23A and 23B because the first one was interrupted by a troll, so I had to restart it. And there's two streams on that day. So if you want to look at if you want to see that call with Darwin, who's called in twice now. First we talked about Israel. That was several weeks ago, I think. And then just a few days ago, he called in and we talked about Social Security. So Darwin is coming from the left, I guess, somewhere on the left. He said he heard about me through the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, who is a leftist. So that's the perspective Darwin is coming from. And can definitely, I think I can see some of that leftism showing through in Darwin's comments. Maybe we can chat about these some more. But let me just keep going in the chat. And okay, there's one more here from Darwin. He asks, "Are you a fan of Trump's big beautiful tax bill?" Big beautiful in quotes. I haven't followed that. I've heard of it, but I've I know almost nothing about it because I haven't followed up on I haven't kept up with the news lately. I've been reading more history. I've actually been reading about the Mandate of Palestine lately, Um, that's what I've been most interested in learning about. So I've just heard a little bits and pieces. Oh, I guess one thing I can say on that is this is secondhand. This isn't based on my own reading into it, but I listen to people like Yaron Brook talk about it. Um, let's just take a sip of water here. So one thing I heard about that, if it is the same bill you're referring to, I'm guessing it is, but there are subsidies in it for solar and wind. And there's someone in the objectivist movement by the name of Alex Epstein who specializes in energy issues. That's what he focuses on. And if you, I would definitely recommend checking out his work. But I think what Alex Epstein has pointed out, and this has also been discussed on Yaron Brook's show, is that the Republicans ran on in the last election, at least some of them, they ran on repealing or getting rid of subsidies for solar and wind. Or maybe it was just they were somehow going to reduce the budget. But I thought so. Take this with a grain of salt, maybe, because as I say, I'm not super up to date on current news stuff. So, but in any case, Republicans had said they were going to get rid of solar and wind subsidies, but now they have an opportunity to, but they're not. They're in the bill. I'm guessing it's in this so-called big beautiful tax bill, and maybe this is due to lobbying because the solar and winds companies, at least the larger ones, they lobby politicians and say, hey, if you don't give us these subsidies, people are going to lose jobs in your district. They're not going to be happy about that, and we're gonna try to make you look bad. So you better keep giving us those subsidies, or you're gonna maybe you'll get voted out of office. Um, Maybe something like that is happening. And now I think Euron Brook has discussed this at more length, and I think Alex Epstein has written an article about it on his Substack. So I would point you to those resources for more commentary. But I think Euron's takeaway was that Republicans are cowards and they don't stand for limited government and they're just being bought off. As Ryan Schenk, I see, has just said in the chat that he says the Republicans have been bought off. So I definitely don't have much respect for the Republicans these days. I think there might have been a few who did not vote for this bill, but I guess they're in the minority. Anyways, those are a few of my secondhand thoughts on the tax bill. Okay, and then Ryan Shink. Oh, I see we're up to 10 likes. Great. That's great. I think that might be a record for the most likes while the stream is going on. So thank you very much for that. If you're just joining the stream, welcome. And if you want to help promote the stream, maybe get some more people coming over. Uh, definitely appreciate it if you give the stream a like and subscribe. Help me grow the channel. All right, Robert Nasir. Oh, there's actually one more from Ryan Schenk I was going to read before that. Ryan Schenk says romantic realism portraying man as he could be and ought to be. Correct? That is a phrase that Rand uses, portraying man as he could be and ought to be, or something like that. That's something along those lines is how Rand describes uh, art, or at least a certain school of art. Um, Maybe romantic realism. I'm actually not sure if if that's the description she uses for romantic realism. Maybe it is. Maybe someone else in the chat knows, but that is a phrase she uses, which I think she got from Aristotle. Maybe not exactly in the same version, but Aristotle has this idea that poetry, in contrast to history, is more important or something. I forget the adjective he uses, but it's more something because it portrays things as they could be, not just as they are. Um, if you read Aristotle's work, The Poetics, I think that's where he presents this idea, which Ayn Rand then also presents. Maybe she presents it as one of Aristotle's idea, um, but I think Aristotle was the originator of it, and it also has some play in Ayn Rand's writing. Okay, then Robert says Casablanca is romantic realism, but you agree. I wouldn't call anything but Ayn Rand's works objectivist art in quotes. And yes, chocolat is magnificent. Okay. It looks like there might be a typo there, where Robert says, but you agree. Or maybe he was. Okay, anyways, it looks like both Robert and I are at least hesitant to call things that are not Ayn Rand's works objectivist art, which is not to say you can't have great art that's not objectivist. You certainly can. Just like the objectivist philosophy, you could have great philosophy that is not part of objectivism, like some of Aristotle's ideas. Um, Ayn Rand considered Aristotle the, the greatest philosopher. Um, and there could be parts of, or there could be aspects of objectivism that are incomplete, like a theory of induction. Um, I guess I shouldn't say aspects of objectivism that are incomplete, but just the philosophy as a whole, you might think is not a complete philosophy, and that there are certain issues, I don't think many, but maybe one or two issues that to have a complete philosophy, um, you would need. And I think a theory of induction is one area of philosophy that Ayn Rand did not have a theory of. Um, but Leonard Peikoff, her student for decades, came up with a theory of induction. And you might think it's a great theory. Whatever you think of it, though, it's not part of objectivism. It's because it's not. Objectivism is the name of Ayn Rand's philosophy. It's what she came up with, or at least endorsed during her lifetime. So um, I don't think something can. It doesn't count as objectivism unless it's fits those criteria. Like either she came up with it or she endorsed it as objectivist. But it can still be great. Okay, then Robert says, I presented an episode of The Daily Objective on the Ayn Rand Center UM with Amy Nasir and Nikos about Casablanca. All right. So I don't know what UM stands for. Uh, maybe that's the name of one of their shows or series of shows um, on that YouTube channel. But anyways, okay. So if people want to get Robert's take, Robert and Amy's and Nikos's take on Casablanca, there's a there's a video you can watch. Then Robert says Calumet K is very light and very charming. Yeah, I really like that. I read it once or twice many years ago. It's about a grain elevator. So this is part of a person who runs the grain elevator. And back in the 19th century, so the 1800s, I think that's when it's set. And there are various obstacles this person has to go through. in order to get this thing to function. So there's, if I remember, there's a river and then some boat comes by and drops off the harvested crops, the grains, and then there's some mechanical instruments. There's like a factory by the side of the river where they process the grain, and there are certain deadlines that have to be met to get this thing working and ship the grain out, I guess, so it maybe so it doesn't rot or something. And this one guy, I forget his name, but he's running the grain elevator and trying to get this thing going. And it really, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but anyways, there's a little about the topic, and it was Ayn Rand said it was her favorite novel or favorite book. And then, oh, Robert says Calumet K is a 1901 novel by Samuel Merwin and Henry Kitchell Webster. Okay, thanks for that info. And then Ryan says, yeah, I read this one already. He says the Republicans have been bought off. And then Kudababa is back. Hi, Kudababa. He says UK. It was a typo. Uh, I see. He's referring to Robert's message where he said Robert had a show on the Ayn Rand Center UM. He meant to write Ayn Rand Center UK. Yeah. Um, yeah, I know there are certain series of shows like the Daily Objective, which have their own acronym, the TDO. So I thought UM might have been another series that was on the Ayn Rand Center UK's website, but yeah, I can see now that that's just a typo for Ayn Rand Center UK. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that correction. All right. Well, I am now caught up in the chat, and so now let's see. Oh, Duck is still in the waiting room on Zoom. Okay. So as I mentioned before, I'm not sure if I want to take this call because it could be a troll, and we had multiple trolls last time call in and bomb the stream, and I ended up having to um, take down the streams after them after the live streams. I privated the streams and I had to edit them, re-upload them. It was a lot of work, so I don't want to have to do that again. Um, so I was thinking of ways I could safeguard against trolls. Um, and one way I thought of is if someone shows up in the Zoom waiting room, which is very easy to do, at least given the way I have it set up right now. All you have to do is click that link that I have pinned um, in the chat. So, by the way, if anyone wants to call in, all you have to do, it doesn't mean you're going to get on the show, but you can at least easily get in the waiting room for the show. All you have to do is click that link that I have pinned in the YouTube chat. Or you can also dial a phone number, which is 669-444-9171. And then you'll be prompted to enter a meeting ID, which is 850-2239-2550 pound sign. And then you'll have to press pound sign once more to get in the waiting room. So those are the instructions just for anyone who's not looking at the chat. But if you are in the chat, they're pinned at the top. But that's how you get in the Zoom waiting room. And then from that point, I may or may not take your call. So I'm trying to screen out trolls better. And one idea I had for how to do that is to have them be both in the YouTube chat and in the Zoom waiting room. So if it's just some random person who shows up in the Zoom waiting room, I'm less likely to take the call than if it's someone I'm already familiar with from the chat who has established some kind of reputation as a legitimate chatter. Um, So I have no idea who this person in the Zoom waiting room is. It just says duck. Uh, so what I want you to do, duck, is identify yourself in the YouTube chat. So that would be step one. And I'm not guaranteeing you're going to get on, even if you do identify yourself in the YouTube chat, but you at least have to do that. That's what I want you to do. I don't know if I'm always going to have this rule, but at least for right now, that's what I want to do. So if you are the person in the Zoom waiting room, I want you to say that in the YouTube chat. So maybe you have a different screen name on YouTube, but someone needs to claim the identity of Duck. Um, that's the first step. So if you are Duck in the Zoom waiting room, tell me that in the YouTube chat. Otherwise, I don't think I'm going to take your call, at least not today, or at least not right now. So maybe I'll give you a minute to do that. And if I don't see any reply, then I'll just remove you from the waiting room. So let me start my timer. All right. It's going. You have 1 minute. All right. Well, I'm caught up on the chat. Oh, just Harry Ludwig popped in the chat at 6:13 p.m. Pacific. He says, "Hey, hi, Harry Ludwig. I don't know if who you are, if you are Duck in the Zoom waiting room or if you're somebody else, but if you are Duck, you need to tell me you're Duck. Um, but I don't recognize your name. I don't think I've seen. Yeah, I don't think I've seen you before. All right, I said I was going to give 1 minute, and let's see. It's been a minute, and I don't see anything in the YouTube chat view. So you know what that means? That means I'm going to delete. I'm going to remove Duck. Remove. All right. Duck has been removed from the waiting room. And he was there or she was there for, gosh, I don't know, maybe an hour. So hopefully, if that was a troll, hopefully the troll just wasted an hour um, of his time or her time. Um, if it wasn't a troll, well, it's too bad. Maybe you can try again later. Um, all right. Well, good. I feel comfortable with this, or I feel better about this screening process than last time. It's last time I was a little concerned, but I think I've got some better safeguards in place now. All right. Harry Ludwig says he's not Duck. Okay. Um, and he says read most of Ran in the early 80s. Okay. Well, that's a few decades ago, about when Ayn Rand died. Ayn Rand died in 1982, March 5th. Was it March 5th or March 6th? One of those days, I think. 1982. And she was born February 2nd, 1905. I'm not sure if that's old style or new style because I think back then, the Russia, which is where Ayn Rand was born, I think they were still on the old style calendar. So I guess that it would be the Julian calendar. not the Gregorian calendar, which was adopted, I don't know when in Russia, but I think some years later. Uh, so I don't know if February 2nd is old style or new style. But anyways, the date people usually cite as being her birth date now is February 2nd. Okay, and then Harry says, most impressed with Atlas Shrugged and Romantic Manifesto and other nonfiction. Okay. I love all of it. The fiction and the nonfiction. Okay. And then hold on a second. I'm just looking up a word that someone in the chat used because I think it might be some kind of slang. I don't know what you mean, Harry, with your question from 617 Pacific. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that means. And I don't want to read it because I think it might be, oh, wasn't she a Jew? Um, you asked, wasn't she a bagel? That's what I didn't understand. Um, I I didn't know that bagel was a slang term for a Jew. Um, I haven't heard that one before. She was Jewish culturally. I mean, she wasn't religious. I think she decided to be an atheist at a young age. Um, maybe 13 or younger. But I don't, yeah, so I guess culturally you could say she was Jewish. Um, okay. And then Harry Potter by Ayn Rand is amazing, says Merrick. Harry Potter by, well, Harry Potter is by J.K. Rowling, right? I don't know why you say, I don't know why Merrick says that. Merrick maybe is a new person. Um, and then John Wayne. Hi, John Wayne. John is here. Um, all right. So, all right. Well, I'm caught up on the chat and I don't see anyone who has tried to call in to the phones. So, should I give you a reading update? Oh, okay. Here's another more chats from John Wayne. He says, "Hey Dan, do you know anything about Rhodesia?" No, not really. That's a country in Africa, right? Um, John says, I think it kind of parallels Israel a bit. Okay. I don't know. I know almost nothing about Rhodesia. I'm going to Google it right now. I thought maybe it was a country in Africa, and it looks like I was right about that. Maybe I'll just read a few sentences from Wikipedia. It says Rhodesia, officially the Republic of Rhodesia from 1970, was an unrecognized state in southern Africa that existed from 1965 to 1979. Rhodesia served as the de facto successor state to the British colony of Southern Rhodesia following a unilateral declaration of independence issued by the ruling white minority government. Okay. So there's a couple sentences from Wikipedia on Rhodesia. Harry says in the chat, bagel is a YouTube euphemism for Jew. Okay. Yeah, I never heard that one before. And then he says Cecil Rhodes. Oh, is that who Rhodesia is named after? In the late 19th century, the territory north of the Transvaal was chartered to the British South Africa Company led by Cecil Rhodes. Okay. All right. So maybe I'll give a little reading updates since I'm pretty much caught up in the chat and we don't have any callers here at the moment. Had somebody who tried to call in, but looks like maybe it was just a troll because the person did not identify himself in the YouTube chat. So I just removed him. So what I've been reading lately is about the British Mandate period in Palestine. Well, it's actually so there's a fine distinction here. There's what's called the Mandate for Palestine, and then separately there's Mandatory Palestine. And I wasn't really clear on um, the difference there until today. But I think I understand it now, at least the way these terms are used on um, Wikipedia. So the mandate for Palestine is just like the agreement leading up to the period between, well, the period when the British were in control of Palestine. So if you look on Wikipedia and you read about the mandate for Palestine, it seems like what you're gonna read about is the initial setup, like what was the thinking that went into constructing this state or whatever you want to call it, protectorate or mandate, I guess. Um, so yeah, I think it focuses on like maybe the years 1915 to 1920, roughly, um, when it was being hammered out at the Paris Peace Conference, and there was a London conference, and then there was the San Remo conference in Italy. That was another conference where they were discussing how this area was going to work, who exactly was going to be in control of it, what exactly were going to be the borders of it. Um, so all that was being figured out in the early years, I think roughly 1915 to 1920. But then if you want to actually read about the Palestine after it was set up, after the agreement was in place, then you go to the article on mandatory Palestine. And then, so what that refers to is the period 1920 to 1948, when the mandatory Palestine ended and then the state of Israel began. So I think that's the difference between mandate for Palestine and mandatory Palestine. That's at least my hypothesis right now on the difference. And so I've been reading about the mandate for Palestine over the last few days. And not sure for how much longer I will be reading about that. Okay. By the way, I've been going for about an hour and a half. No, I started at 4:45 today. That's right, unusual time. So more than an hour and a half. It's been hour and three quarters. Yeah. So this is I usually go roughly about this time, uh, somewhere around 2 hours. I'm not sure how long I'm going to go today. I'm not really feeling like I need to stop soon. Like I'm not feeling low on energy. I could go for a while. But I think it partly depends on the kind of engagement I get in chat and or calls, if there are any. Um, but right now it's just chat. So let me go back to the chat and see what else is new here. Um, Harry Ludwig says Cecil Rhodes succeeded by the Milner Group in England. And then he asks if he can call in. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I might want to see some more of you in this chat for a longer period of time. Maybe we can just chat and we can do like a one-way call. In other words, you chat, but I talk. I can we can pretend like this is a call, but you just text instead of talk, and then this can be your proving yourself time. If it seems like reasonable to have a call at some time, then maybe we can transition from text chat to call. Um, so let's see. Darwin says Dan at Harry Ludwig is obviously a troll. He said bagel is a euphemism for Jew, which implies Jew is a bad thing. Okay. Maybe I didn't, I guess I did, maybe I missed something there. Um, that's a good point. Um, Let me go back to that. Where was that comment? That was that retracted? I see there was some message retracted. Only one, it looks like. Um, oh yeah, it's still there. Um, that's a good point, Darwin. I didn't, I guess I didn't catch that when I first read it, but that certainly that puts weight on the side of don't take the call. And then Harry says, "Have you ever understood YouTube algorithms at Darwin?" So are you saying you're trying to increase engagement with this stream through the algorithm by saying things that are offensive to Jews? Uh, okay, I'm just reading more chats here from Harry. You say you have 10,000 books, over 600 on Judaism, mostly written by Jews. 10,000 books, that's kind of hard to believe. All right. This is seeming a little suspicious to me, at least a little suspicious, Harry. So, no, I don't think I want to do a call, at least not right now. Um, I'm wondering now if I should actually block you because of the point that Darwin made. Um, yeah, maybe I should block Harry later, if not now. But yeah, I'm not comfortable doing a call at this point. So Nope. All right. See, we got a few people here. 11 likes. Great. Great. Definitely appreciate the likes. And let me take a quick look at my analytics. Oh, wow. Saw over 60 people came by during 5 p.m. Pacific hour. It says 66 people. I don't know if those are unique visitors, but whether they are or not, that's I think that's higher than usual. So that's good. Uh, oh, you're trying to destabilize monetization? Is that what you mean? Harry just wrote, certain algorithms destabilize the podcaster's monetization. Are you fearful? Okay, so not looking good for Harry here. It's looking like Harry, looks like Darwin might be right that he's just a troll. If he's here trying to destabilize my monetization, which I don't even have, uh, my channel is not monetized yet, at least. So, how does one prove they are not a troll? Well, by not saying the kinds of things you've been saying, for one thing. All right, I think maybe I should just block Harry now, and then if Harry wants to appeal his case, he'll have to get in touch with me through some way. Maybe I'll leave it to him to figure out. But I think it might be good to block him now. So let me do a copy and paste first. Uh, where does his comment start? Oh, I think I found it. All right, here's my document where I paste the chats. Okay, just a minute. All right, Harry Ludwig has been blocked. So if he's trying to destabilize my monetization and imply bad things about Jews and claim he's got 10,000 books, that's that's sounding kind of suspicious to me. So Harry is gone. All right. I see John Wayne back in the chat. Why is my screen, It's like it went dim for a second there. Okay, so John Wayne asks, "Have I met Andrew Bernstein?" Yes, I have a few times um, in the over the years. And then John says he released an article recently on Capitalism magazine saying Trump is still vastly superior to the left. I saw that. I haven't read it. I don't know if I will, but I'm not really interested. Unfortunately, as I think I mentioned in the last stream, I've been pretty displeased by what I've seen from Andy Bernstein over the last few years. So, um, not really interested. I think he's too much on the Trump train, as I said in the last stream or so. Um, so much so that yeah, I don't really have a interest in reading the article. I am quite anti-Trump myself. Um, I don't even see him as the lesser of evils, at least in this last election. As I said, I mentioned in a previous stream, I didn't vote for either Harris or Trump, but um, if I had to, maybe I would have chosen Harris if those were my only two options and I had to just choose one. Um, I don't see Trump as a lesser evil. I don't think he cares about the truth nearly to the extent anyone should. Um, and I think uh, yeah, January 6th was very bad, and I think he helped incite that. I've talked about him more in previous streams, and I have Trump in the title of some of my streams. So if anyone wants to hear more about my thoughts on Trump, you can check those out. All right. It's coming up on 2 hours here. I guess one thing I could do, which I've done in the past, but not at this point in the stream, is just kind of take a pause and turn off my camera and mic. And then if anyone shows up in the chat with more they want me to engage with, or if someone says they want to call in, that I could just come back later. I've done that before, but much earlier in the stream, like 15 minutes or something, or 30 minutes into it. But now we're like 2 hours into it. So this might be a good time to end it anyways, even though I don't really feel like I need to end it now. But I could. 2 hours is a good bit of time. But I was just thinking, instead of ending it, maybe an alternative is to just take a break and just turn off my mic and camera, keep the stream going, but just turn off my mic and camera and then check back, look at the chat every 5, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. And then if something shows up, I can engage with it. Or if someone wants to call in, maybe I could screen the person and, uh, if they pass the screen test, then maybe I could actually do a call. Um, oh, I just see a new chat came in from Jack Lonergan. He says, "Isn't it weird to think that we connect on this platform in this way? We'll never meet or have any association other than YouTube's algorithm introducing us to each other. I think it is amazing that we can have this kind of interaction. I think YouTube is great, and just the internet in general is an amazing tool. I don't know if it's true that we will never connect in any other way. What if I randomly see you on the street? Um, I don't know how you came across my channel. Like, did you, I would actually be interested to know, Jack. Like, do you have some interest in Ayn Rand, or did you see me on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar? A lot of people heard about me that way, like Darwin. Um, I'd be interested to know how you came across my stream, or at least your guess. Maybe you don't know for sure, like why the algorithm suggested my videos to you, but maybe you at least have a guess. But I think it's very cool that you can connect with so many people. That's what I'm here to do. I'm trying to raise awareness among all the people out there in the world about Ayn Rand's ideas. Um, People who haven't heard about her before. Oh, Jack says, ah, that makes sense. Huge Majority Report fan. Never heard of you, but the algo ordained we should meet. Okay, so here we go. Here's another Majority Report listener who heard about me. Well, I don't know if you ever saw me on the Majority Report or if it's just um, I've called into the Majority Report 7 times, and all of those calls are on my channel. There's a playlist, so you can watch all of them. Um, but maybe even if you haven't seen my calls to the Majority Report, you'll still be recommended some of my videos because somewhere on my channel there are videos about the Majority Report, and maybe that tells the algorithm to suggest my channel to you. Yeah, Jack says I'm in the Majority Report, the majority orbit. Haha. He says I will check them out. Best of luck and have a good evening day. Yeah, same to you. Thanks for coming by, Jack. All right, we're up to 11 likes. Thank you for those. All right, anyone else watching who wants to say hello? Uh, Definitely like to see, even if all you have to say is hi, that's cool too. I like to know who's watching the stream. But of course, if you want to be anonymous, you don't have to say anything. But I definitely welcome people to let me know if they're watching. Oh, I just got another like, I see. So maybe someone acted on what I just said. Um, okay, so now I'm thinking I've got a choice. I can either just turn the mic and camera off and then see if anyone pops up later wanting to discuss things more, and then I can come back and engage, or I could just end the stream. You want to state your preference on that in the chat? Anybody? See, there's it says right now for on my end, it says there's 6 people, and I'm mostly relying on all of you people who are watching to supply topics at least, and then I can engage with that because I don't come with a lot of material prepared just to talk about on my own. So if you all are here, um, feel free to raise topics. Otherwise, um, I might do one of those t two things and just either end the stream or just put it on pause, put my mic and camera on pause, and then come back to check later. Okay, we just got some more chats I see. RW uh, says, "What's your outlook on humanity in terms of capitalism, in terms of society feeling?" And then he says, "Do you have an optimistic outlook, or are things going to get worse before they get better?" Okay. My outlook on humanity. And then you say, in terms of capitalism, in terms of society. So I don't know if I do think people have free will, and I don't think we are, it's the future is necessarily going to be good or necessarily going to be bad. I don't think we're doomed to failure or guaranteed success. I think it's open to choices people make. I'm not sure what the most likely outcome is. It's hard to predict. Um, but let me think if there's, what else can I say? Um, I mean, there are some very bad signs. Like I think the whole Trump movement is a bad sign. Maybe it's a sign that the American sense of life has decayed. Um, Ayn Rand she referred to what she called the American sense of life, a kind of can-do-it um, attitude, an attitude of defiance, defying authority, as opposed to a European attitude where they're more subservient in letting the state dictate to them how they live. Americans have a more rebellious or independent streak in them. She was saying things along these lines in an article from the 1970s, I think, called What Can One Do? I think that's where she discussed the American sense of life, or at least one place she discussed it. But I think that has eroded over time. And I think um, Trump it could be a sign that it has eroded. Like people are in mass numbers are becoming cult followers, like mindlessly following this guy. He does so many bad things, but so many people will just justify anything he does. As Trump once said, like I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose any votes for it. Um, and I think there's some truth, at least a significant grain of truth in there. I think people are just mindlessly following him instead of thinking for themselves. They're joining some tribe, maybe because they feel like they need to join a tribe to fight the left, the other main tribe in the US right now. Maybe they feel um, inefficacious on their own. And so, in order to fight the left, they feel like they have to jump on board with Trump and defend everything he does, or almost everything. In any case, be way more sympathetic to him than I think he deserves. Um, so I think that's not a good sign. Um, but there are also good things going on in the world. Uh, Technology like Zoom or YouTube, which we're using right now to have this call. Uh, Amazing things are being done. And I think Yaron Brook was just talking about some new CRISPR technology. I think that might be some kind of gene editing technology that's being developed. You can do amazing things. So there's also good things in the world. Um, and I'm trying to help out the good stuff, make more of it happen. Um, so I don't know if I would. So RW asked, do I have an optimistic outlook? Um, I don't know if I would describe it as optimistic. I don't really think much. I think most about like how can I make my life go the best? And I guess I think less about what's most likely to happen to the culture at large or the world at large. But of course, those two are related. I mean, I live in a culture. I'm not living by myself on a desert island, so I am influenced by the world at large. But I guess I don't really have a firm view on whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic about the future of the country. It's complicated. It's hard to predict. I think it's good to focus on what you have control over and not dwell. All right, here's somebody I need to block. Okay, that was much quicker. I think that person lasted like less than 20 or 30 seconds. Um, um, okay, so yeah, there's a few thoughts on what RW was saying, and that was the last thing in the chat. Oh, okay. Someone else has just entered the waiting room on Zoom with a kind of unusual username. So maybe this is another troll. All right. So if you're the person in the waiting room on Zoom, I'll give you 1 minute to identify yourself on YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to take your call anyways, but I'm just kind of curious to see what happens. So tell me who you are on YouTube. Um, go. 1 minute. And I think maybe I will, well, I'll hold off on saying that. 30 seconds. Tell me on YouTube chat if you're the one in the waiting room. All right. I don't see anything. So, boom, you're gone. All right. My guess is that that was probably a troll, but I don't have to deal with it. Very good. Very good. All right. I think I'm going to end the stream now. So, thanks for coming by, everyone. I definitely appreciate all the likes and any new subscriptions. Oh, let me just look at one thing on, there's some analytics here on the back end, which I haven't looked at before during a stream. So I'm curious to see um, what kind of analytics they provide here. Oh, Darwin just came back in the chat. He says CRISPR was ultimately the product of basic research funded by the NIH and NSF. Okay, so I guess the point there is Darwin is pointing out that it's look at these federal government programs. They're the source of the progress. It's not the free market and capitalism. I'm guessing that's the point behind Darwin's comment. Darwin is then he says taxpayers, baby. So Darwin is coming from the Majority Report. That's where he heard about me from. So, but I welcome people from coming from there, coming over here, as long as they're civil, which Darwin has been. Unlike many other people from the Majority Report who are very uncivil, I appreciate that Darwin has been civil. So I welcome him to participate. But as for taxpayers, who Darwin mentions there, I would say these are people being coerced, and coercion is bad. It's immoral, and coercion is anti-progress, anti-wealth, anti-reason. We actually talked about that some when you when we talked about Social Security last time. That was I was explaining how reason and freedom are opposites, and when you coerce people through taxation, then I think that slows progress, slows innovation. Like I'm going to have less incentive to produce if I don't get to keep the rewards of my labor. To the extent that my money is taxed away, why am I going to work at all? But if I know that I can keep the product of my labor, if it's not going to be taxed away, then I have an incentive to work and produce more. So there's a self-interested, egoistic, you might say selfish, in Ayn Rand's sense of the term, reason to produce if you can keep the rewards of your production. If you can sell them, make a profit, rather than having your work taxed away, redistributed to somebody else who didn't do the work. So if you think you can benefit from creating some CRISPR technology, then maybe you'll make a fortune. But if all that money or a lot of it is not going to come back to benefit you, then you're going to have less of an incentive to produce these new innovative technologies. But maybe we can discuss that some more another time. Maybe you could come back on and debate it. Um, but definitely appreciate the comments. And I think I'm going to wrap up the stream now. So thanks everyone for coming by. I do plan to do another stream on Saturday. That's my normal day, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So maybe back to the more usual time of around 1 p.m. Pacific. I guess I get more Europeans when I do that because it's later there. They're like eight, 8 or so hours ahead. So I'm more likely to get Europeans. I didn't notice any Europeans on the chat today. And maybe that's because I started a few hours later and they're in the middle of their sleep. So, but on the other hand, I might get more Americans if I do it later in the day because maybe they're off of work now. Whereas if I do it around 1 p.m., maybe it's in the middle of their workday. And so, depending on the crowd, I'll get more or less people from more or less from a given sector. But I might want to experiment with different times or different days, anyways. Um, but I did want to stick to a at least sort of regular schedule of Wednesday and Saturdays around 1 p.m. for a while. So, anyways, if you're subscribed, you'll get a notification on YouTube. If you click that bell, you should get notified. So whenever I go live, you will be notified. All right. Thanks everyone for coming by and enjoy the rest of your day, week, and hopefully I'll see some of you all in the next stream on Saturday. All right. Bye. Bye, everyone.